Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Grit Daily Startup Show with your host, Leonard Kim. Today we have John Conafay with us. He's the CEO and co-founder of Integrate. And before we get into exactly what Integrate is, John, do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about your story, your background, and kind of how you came to where you are? I think I looked over your LinkedIn, and you did a lot of space work, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well before the space industry, um, in high school, it was huge in music. Started recording local bands, so kind of had the entrepreneurial lean very early on. Started a record label straight out of high school. Failed miserably, but learned a lot, and then went into the Air Force essentially to get a bit of discipline. Worked on communication navigation mission systems on AWACS, which might mean absolutely zero to a lot of people, but just all the comm systems on big goofy plane, yet powerful. And that's when I fell in love with aerospace. Most have always been kind of a gearhead and really into technology. And then went to school for economics and design at Arizona State University. Found a club, not founded, but found a club called the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space at ASU,
Yeah.
because I was actually looking for a CTO for an app that I wanted to build at that time, 15 years ago or whatever, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was, and fell in love with Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, also known as SEDS. So became president at the chapter level, executive director of the national organization, kind of ripped it up from its roots with a few friends, rebranded it, and did a whole bunch of other work. And that got my foot in the door for the space industry. And then I've worked at 4 different space startups, 3 of them unicorns, and always very early at each one. So glutton for punishment. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing to get into an early stage startup and have it become a unicorn. I mean, if you think about how tough that startup market is, it's insanely hard for any of the companies to really break through and hit that status. So, congratulations on that, Pratt. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So, you kind of moved from space, and then now you're currently working on Integrate, and Integrate's more like hardware and software integration, right?
Yeah.
How,
So it's, yeah.
how did that kind of occur? Because like space is all the way over here. You're doing things, sending satellites up, doing all this crazy stuff, all the stuff you see Elon doing, and now you're doing hardware and software integration. What kind of led you down that path?
Yeah, so Integrate is, we say it's program management software for the world's most ambitious machines. So part of that is kind of meshing this agile with waterfall that you traditionally see in hardware. But hardware doesn't really do anything without software. So there's this big gap in the market where you don't have you have software tools built for software that don't really serve the hardware side of the house, and they're
Yeah.
just kind of shoehorned in there. And I'd love to say that we just saw that gap and attacked it from the get-go, but we absolutely didn't. My experience was in the space industry specifically. So I started with mission management because I saw my mission managers are essentially program managers that are responsible for coordinating satellites integration to a launch vehicle, so a rocket. And with the miniaturization of satellites, many more satellites could fit onto a single rocket. And so fitting a whole bunch of satellites from a whole bunch of different companies became exponentially more complex, not linearly. So we originally built the software to solve that problem. How do you allow for customers to be completely separated from each other, but have
Yeah.
your one single view of all of their data information, all the 3,000 tasks, milestones, and requirements that go into um, putting a single spacecraft onto a rocket. So that's where we started, was with
Yeah.
mission management, very firmly in the space industry. We realized, after 2021, where money was flowing, I'm pretty sure you could just step outside and catch dollar bills falling from the sky. 2022, we saw a little bit of a decline, and it felt like in 2023 the bubble absolutely popped. But what we had found was that we built a really spectacular technical program management software. for all of these reasons, because hardware is inherently collaborative. So the ability to seamlessly interact with external stakeholders in a software is something that no other software really offers. So we saw that opportunity, went after it. Now we're in renewables, automotive, a lot of space customers, and maritime as well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to project management, when I first kind of learned more about how that worked and adopted the software is when I was working at USC. Like, to go out there and create an article, it's just an article, which is just a tangible thing that you see on. It's not even tangible; it's intangible. It's just some digital file that you see online that turns into something that goes on a website. There's like 30 different integrations that you have to do and put into the workflow and have that automation set up to go out there and do something. So if you're thinking space, like going out there and building something out, there's got to be thousands and thousands and thousands, and the thought process behind that has to be absolutely absurd. Because just
Yeah.
thinking through every single step for like 30 pieces, it's like, wow, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of places. Oh, we missed this, we missed this, we missed this. So thinking and then expanding that into a bigger project, that's kind of crazy. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I could kind of understand that move where you built the system that's able to kind of do that and move it into hardware, because when you think about hardware, like the iPhone can do a lot more than what they produce it to do, but they kind of
Yeah.
limit it into a certain spec because if you kind of look at like Nvidia with all their AI that they're kind of doing, like that's from a hardware level, it's not too far off. But then they figured out how to go out there and figure out how to get the maximum output out of it. Whereas Apple has more of a consumer device that's kind of geared towards people. And I think when you're kind of moving into like the hardware, software space, especially for like B2B and new developments and so forth, and emerging tech, especially with AI right now, having something like that is kind of essential to really go out there and stand out in the market. What do you think?
Yeah, I think. Are you asking, what kind of hardware differentiators are essential, or having software for hardware solutions to build these ever more complex and complex
I'm not sure
hardware?
what I'm asking.
Yeah, totally,
But one of those.
totally fair, totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're seeing hardware get incredibly more complex. I mean, the fact that I have you know 30 different systems that can connect to Wi-Fi in my house, whether it's a washer and dryer or
Yeah.
my actual laptop. More and more power, tighter and tighter constraints, and significantly more complexity than we've dealt with ever in the past across any type of hardware, whether it's a TV, a rocket, or a car. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of this software for hardware merging all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, IoT has been a pretty interesting thing. One person I worked with in the past, what he kind of did is he figured out a way to build out predictive analytics by putting trackers on carts in the grocery store to figure out
Nice.
when you would have to go to the front of the grocery store and man your register, right? Or how many carts got abandoned and so forth. So with that analytics and data, you kind of get a lot of information. Now, if the cart can move itself, that would probably be what AI is now. So
Yeah.
with how that tech is kind of emerging, what do you kind of forecast is like the future of how this is all being integrated, and where do you play a role in all that?
The future of technology, just broadly,
Yeah,
or AI specifically. Yeah.
spotlight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's moving
Uh,
into the AI direction, but I don't know if it's going to happen in the next 2 years where it's fully adopted. It's probably like 15, 20 years out.
yeah. 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 I think the miniaturization of everything allows us to track a lot more important. It's just sort of how things have been tracking for the past 50 years. As things get smaller and smaller, you can track more, and get more data out of them because of that. And so hopefully we get a lot more flexibility and autonomy in
Yeah.
our everyday life. Yeah.
That makes sense. How do you see people are using your tool currently?
Yeah. Currently, we have kind of running gamut. Some are managing their customers directly. So we have a space station company that works with a number of customers directly to get things onto the space station, and so they coordinate with our internal collaborative capability, coordinate directly with their customers on their source of truth schedules. Others are building ships of some sort. We have a renewable energy company that's managing all of their schedules and program management to just build what they're designing and integrate. So, and then some that are, want to see a complete roll up of everything in Jira, because we have an integration with Jira at a top level planning stage. So it kind of runs the gamut.
That's pretty cool. So I know when utilizing like a tool like Rag or ClickUp or Microsoft Project and so forth, like kind of seeing that bigger view picture of exactly everything that's kind of going on is a little bit difficult because you have to kind of click through a lot of different tabs. What do you think is the way that you get to kind of see more of that bigger picture and the overview of all the different projects going on to kind of build out your tasks for your tool?
In integrate, yeah. So we have the ability to pull out and see things at a programmatic level as opposed to a project level. You can see things as a project of something can get done in 2 weeks, 3 months or something. The programs are generally the big gnarly, end-to-end life cycle that need to be managed. And so we have the ability to see programs at the actual program level as opposed to a bunch of collections of projects, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Another thing that you kind of mentioned is there's a lot of different teams kind of involved in a lot of the projects that are being worked on. I know with a lot of the softwares, you don't really have a good integration when it comes to going out there and differentiating and showing all the different areas and all the different projects, especially if you have like outside companies kind of working on projects as well, or freelancers and so forth. How do you kind of solve that?
Yeah. So majority of software built for software or Microsoft project and things relies on working with and collaborating with internal stakeholders to your company. So just different teams within the same company, but you're built on an instance. So like your instance is the only thing that you can access, full stop. Slack is probably the closest example of something that allows us to communicate with people externally. Integrate allows you to parse out tasks, projects, and programs to external stakeholders directly from your source of truth as seamlessly as you would share something internally. So
that's cool.
If you build this like wildly exquisite source of truth internal to your company, you can then add external stakeholders that are on integrate directly to those tasks without showing them everything else that's in your program.
Nice.
So that's
That's pretty cool. And you kind of mentioned that people are working on space project, boats, and other things of that nature. A lot of that information definitely has confidentiality, and it could be things that people want to go out there and kind of expose that data and kind of look for trade secrets and so forth through hacking and other different ways. What are the different things that you are doing to really go and protect that proprietary data from these companies that you service?
Yeah, so we started in the space industry, and so things like ITAR and security are absolutely top of mind. We're pretty psychotic about them, and so we started from a really strong base of security. All servers within the U.S. Went after SOC 2 very, very quickly to make sure that we have all best practices for protecting customer data, and then. Really spectacular, like the highest standard for encryption as well as best practices. We're also going after NIST 800-171 compliance and things like this, just to ensure that our customer data is as secure as humanly possible.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the big things, especially for the type of work that you're doing right now, that a lot of companies are really looking for in regards to protecting that data. Because when you kind of look at a regular project management software, it probably doesn't have those types of security levels that you're kind of building into something at space level or something that has private security access only at like the highest levels as well.
Yeah. So we do a lot of government work and have to specifically be on government environments, which is something that we got little bit over our skis with in the first year of Integrate to make sure we could service it, but have some really spectacular government contracts now. So glad that panned out for sure.
That's awesome. Who do you think usually is the type of person that's really finding you? Do you think you're going out there and attracting developers who are bringing this up to their bosses, or attracting more of the leaders who are kind of looking at this platform and saying that we need it in regards to like your government and private sector projects?
Yeah, it's a lot of people that are kind of fed up with Microsoft Project and sending versions back and forth, as well as Smartsheet. Not to put too fine a point on it, but as well as Smartsheet, where they're sending files back and forth. They're waiting 2 weeks for a check-in with one of their 130 vendors to reincorporate any changes that have happened inevitably in that 2 weeks. And they're just sick of not having real-time collaborative capabilities so that they can get up-to-date decisions to make real-time decisions. So usually a lot of project and Smartsheet transplants. We play nice with Jira because a lot of software developers, even in the hardware companies, say, you'll pry this from our cold dead hands. So decided to play nice with Jira.
That makes sense. So, I mean, I've used a lot of project management tools, and they really aren't collaborative. They kind of are just like assigning out tasks, clicking off things, saying they're done, and if they're done, you have to go out there and look and figure out where that dump file is, and go track it down and everything. So it's kind of a mess, and it's not as easy as it really sounds like. How they present it to be, I guess, is the better story.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool that you're able to kind of do a lot of the stuff here. And so it seems that one of the key things that you have that really stands out is security. Another thing is collaboration. And the other one would probably be more for larger projects like hardware and like proprietary projects and so forth. What are the other things you think really make Integrate stand out compared to other things out there?
Yep. A lot of it has to do with that external collaborative capability. That's probably our key differentiator because hardware is inherently collaborative. You're going to need to buy a part or have somebody outside of your company build a part. And communicating schedule, it can be such a significant driver of your schedule internally that you should be able to have the ability to get real time updates. So that's one of our biggest differentiators for sure.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool, and especially if people are working on a sprint cycle where they have like a week or two set off to go out there and do specific tasks before the next one is go out there and integrate. To have more of a collaborative approach for that, where multiple developers are able to work together on the project. That's and people even outside of the company, because like when I was working at USC, we had freelancers on the outside, and we also had our internal editors and writers and physicians that we had to integrate into everything. And just figuring out those integrations is extremely tough to really go out there and get those projects done at the kind of level that you want it to get done. When you kind of look at the growth of Integrate over the next few years, where do you kind of see it heading?
Yeah, I think a lot of growth within the government. We're seeing we had a test, an interagency collaboration test that was slated for an hour and a half and ended up taking 12 minutes because they were able to accomplish everything that they needed to do and some things that they hadn't been able to do for a month prior.
Wow.
Can't name the two organizations, but you've heard of them. and Organization A had their full list of a program. Organization B had nothing in their account. Organization A shared all of the things that were relevant to Organization B. It popped up immediately, and like, okay, is this just what I work from? They made a few changes, uploaded a few files, and they were like, this might have been the most seamless interagency collaboration ever. And so
that's kind of crazy.
So super important, and I think there's a lot of room for that within the government, and we can help with it. So I see a lot of growth in the government sector and on that side of things, and then we're entering new verticals every week, it seems. So So commercial traction is definitely picking up. We'd love to be synonymous with building hardware within the next 3 years.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, especially if everyone comes see you for hardware or for government contracts as well.
Yeah,
And I mean, if anyone's even seen like a government system, it's kind of archaic. So kind of getting that to kind of
yeah,
work is pretty awesome and pretty groundbreaking, especially in those departments. So that's a good thing.
yeah,
Nice,
absolutely,
awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
We're going to reach the end of our show in a few minutes. Were there any final thoughts that you kind of wanted to share with everyone, John?
No, Grit Daily is the right name for a podcast about startups because I when we were going through our seed raise, it was tough, and
It's a
all I read
grind.
were startup books. Like it was just a straight grind, and all I read were startup books about founders' stories, and the one common thread was just perseverance and just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. So it's good name for a podcast for sure. Yeah.
It is for sure. I guess that leaves me with a final question for you. You do have to have the grit. You do have to have that determination. And what you kind of mentioned is it was a grind to go out there and get to that seed funding. A lot of companies don't even make it there. What do you think some of your biggest challenges are kind of running a company because you kind of had a lot of high level positions elsewhere, but they weren't your own baby, but now it's your own. What would you say is one of your biggest challenges now? Or that you've
Yeah,
kind of
not right.
overcame?
Yeah, absolutely. Not riding every wave. There are a million things every single day that'll go wrong, and
Yeah.
a million things that'll go right. And if you react and respond and ride every single issue all the way, burn yourself out. And so, a lot of hope, a lot of piss and vinegar, and surround yourself by really spectacular people. Yeah,
Yeah, that's for sure. You could easily get pulled into a lot of different directions. It's really easy to burn out, especially if you go down the wrong paths and you're just getting lost in that mix. Or trying to even address everything at once, especially with so many different moving parts to a business. So if
yeah,
anyone's going out there and trying to build their own thing, just make sure to take some time and really prioritize what really matters and is going to move the needle, and what is probably something that you should go out and overlook. John, I wanted to thank you for your time and sharing all of your insights with us today. I really do appreciate it, and I believe our listeners do as well. Where could people find Integrate? Where could they find you? And how could they, if they want to learn more about anything you're doing, what should they be doing?
yeah. You can go to integrate.co and reach out to us. Sign up for the software. You can use it for free for 14 days, or reach out to me on LinkedIn at LinkedIn/in/Conafay.
That's Conafay, correct? Perfect. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Grit Daily Startup Show with your host, Leonard Kim, and John Cafferay from Integrate, the CEO and co founder there. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks so much. Bye.